Welcome back to the SME Marketeers Getting Started Guide. In this session we're going to start looking at SEO. If you've followed our previous two videos about creating a website, you should probably now have in mind your target audience, your value proposition and your competition. You will have identified the CMS tool you're going to use, whether you've settled on WordPress, Weebly, Wix, Shopify or another solution. All of these are responsive, so they naturally will render to mobile. And you should have begun to plot your customer journey. So have clear in your head the main purpose of your website and how you're going to get the customer from point A, landing as a prospect on your site, to point B, fulfilling the goal. The last piece of the puzzle is to add in SEO, and that will help you focus the content of your site. So let's just take a step back and clarify, what is SEO? SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. Search engines like Google and Bing crawl websites looking at the content, indexing pages and adding them to their vast databases so that when someone types a search query into their search bar, it can quickly return the best results possible to meet the searcher's requirements. However, Googlebot or a search engine bot can't actually see the content, so it needs information on the page to help it read what is there. Google is trying to teach its bots to read a page just as a human would. It's teaching its bots to understand semantics and the relationship between words, and so its bots are actually anything but simple. But I wanted to give you a basic overview of what search engine optimization is. So why is SEO important? Well, the majority of product and service sales start from a search query. You probably know yourself if you've seen an advert on the TV, or a friend tells you about a product, or you see something that you're interested in just as you're going about your daily business. You probably do a Google search or Bing search for more information about that product or service. And that's why it's so key to get into those top pages. If someone's seeing your product or your service and they type that in and a competitor comes up, they may go off into a competitor site instead of to yours. If you needed any further evidence, just let's do a quick Google search now on a random term, women's shoes for example, and see that it returns millions of results, an eye-watering number, back in seconds. And although as a searcher it's unlikely to ever click much beyond the first page, you can actually use other tools such as you suggest in Google itself to see how many searches there are each month for that term. And for women's shoes there's 60,000 searches every month. So we're looking at some good volumes here. But there's two things that happens. As a searcher, you are probably not going to look much beyond the first page, maybe page 2 at the tops. And then you're going to start to refine your search if you haven't found what you want. So you might start saying women's shoes UK or women's shoe shops near me, or you might define it as women's party shoes, women's work shoes. As you start to build out these terms, this is what we call long tail, and we'll talk more about that later. There's two opportunities here. As a small business, you're going to find it hard to compete against the big terms the industry is going for. So women's shoes, for example, is probably sewn up by ASOS or M&S. And again, we'll talk a bit later, but you look into this as the search difficulty that gives you a keyword for the competition for that term and how hard it is to rank number 1. However, if someone's searching a slightly longer tail keyword, such as women's shops near me, that's where you can actually start to rank as a small business, because you are local and you are more relevant to that search. So we'll look at that in a bit more detail later on. So let's get back to where we started. So originally we talked about the website. So you followed our processes from stage 1 and 2 of the Getting Started guide. And now the final piece of the jigsaw, as we mentioned, is keywords. So this is very, very fundamental to your SEO. And also it helps you to prioritise and focus the website content before you get writing. So how do you identify them? Well, it does take time, but it is worth the effort. And if you're good with lists, you're going to love this exercise. So firstly, imagine you're at your computer now and think of all the words that you would type into a search and want to see your company returned as a result. So this would perhaps be your brand name, your profession, your product or service. Write all these keywords down. That's your first list. Now imagine that your target audience are doing the same and think about what they are typing into the search bar. What words are they using? What questions are they asking? Will it change according to the time of year? Is there a seasonality for your product? Where are they looking to source this need? Are they looking locally? Are they looking nationally? Does it matter if it's globally? And if you have an existing site, you hopefully will have linked it to Google Search Console. And in there's a bit which we will talk about later again, which shows you the queries that people are typing in for where your site is being returned. So now you have these two lists. That's your second list. So your list, customers list. Now plug these words into free tools like Ubersuggest or SEMrush. This will not only give you more keyword ideas, including related searches and questions, but it will also give you monthly volumes for each of the keywords, and as we mentioned earlier, how difficult it will be to rank for that word. But you aren't done yet. The final element is to enter in your competition. So again, using these free tools, you can type in your competitors' domains and see which keywords they are ranking for. This will now give you a lot of lists in Excel with probably hundreds of ideas, and you're looking to narrow this down to the keywords that are appropriate for your business. We are now looking to strike a balance between the most appropriate words for your product or service with those that have a good monthly volume. So within all your Excel sheets, set some filters so that you can select keywords with perhaps 100 or more words initially. Be mindful that the best keywords might be what we mentioned earlier as long tail, and might be more relevant to you. So again, as we said, women's shoes might have a fantastic monthly volume, but if you specifically only sell women's party shoes, then that term, although there's a lower volume, will be more relevant and you're more likely to make a sale. To help us select and filter further, there are a couple of things we can do more. First, look at the terms your competitors are all using. You'll start to see a pattern of the keywords that they are all trying to target. Then look at the intent of the keywords, whether it's a research intent, a transactional intent, and whether they are looking to find that information by going to somewhere on the website, on the internet, or whether they're going to actually want to visit a local destination. That will help you filter some in and out. Finally, then look at the keyword search difficulty, the amount of competition for that keyword, what they call the fathead terms, so the shortest catch-all terms like shoe shop, coffee shop, accountants, consultants, plumbers, travel insurance, so on, will all be the fathead term for that industry. The longer tail keywords, where the search intent is more specific, as we've said before, the volumes may be lower, but the relevancy of your offer to their search may be more appropriate, and the competition may be significantly lower. So when we're looking at this final piece of the jigsaw puzzle in keywords, we want to look for keywords where the difficulty score is less than 60%. We can have a long-term goal of ranking on those that are high at 80%, and those will always be the big key industry words. But for your short-term goal and to try and get presence, you're looking at targeting those with 60% or less. So for more other information, you should now have a pattern emerging with the keywords to use. Those will likely be falling into categories of big terms and long-tail terms. And the final task is to consider the keywords you want to use for each individual page of your website. So each page should have its own set of keywords, its own priorities, its own target. So for example, your homepage will likely be targeting the main fathead terms, such as women's shoes. And some pages will be there to provide more information for people researching on your product, which will be matched to keywords with a research intent. And finally, your individual products and services pages will be targeted at the long tail keyword terms to meet the needs of people with a very specific purchase intent, such as women's party shoes or women's trainers. Once you've done your keyword research, pop back to the SME Marketeers Guide to Getting Started how-to page and watch our next video on SEO and the next steps to take to putting that onto your page.